So with the CRM retargeting, you can just show ads to that person while they're in that specific funnel.
Welcome to the Active Marketer Podcast, where we talk about how to design, automate, and scale your business to the next level using sales and marketing automation. You can find out all the tips, tactics, and techniques you need to get more customers and sell more stuff over at theactivemarketer.com. Now, here's your host, Barry Moore.
Welcome to the Active Marketer Podcast. I'm your host, Barry Moore, and this is the podcast that's all about sales funnels and marketing automation. I'm excited to have you folks on board for the first podcast of 2017. Super excited about this year. Lots of really exciting stuff planned over at the Active Marketer and Active Marketer Academy. Can't wait to get stuck into 2017. Now, one of the things I get asked about quite a lot in Automation Nation, our Facebook group, or in the Academy itself, is how do we track and tag people based on how much of a particular video that they've seen? Or how can I move people in and out of website custom audiences or do special retargeting based upon tags they might have inside ActiveCampaign? So for some of that more advanced ActiveCampaign integration, I've invited Jake Hauer from Fused on to have a talk about how you can use Fused to do those things, exactly those things I just talked about. So it's a really interesting show, opens up some really great possibilities for your automation and for your sales funnels. But before we get to that, of course, we're going to do the shameless social proof segment. That's so hard to say. I really need to rename that. The shameless social proof segment, where I read out your iTunes ratings and reviews. So this one comes from the United States by Mike Merrifield. Indispensable podcast, 5 stars. I've been listening to Barry for more than a year, and this podcast has been so valuable to me in using marketing automation to run and grow my business, especially helpful for ActiveCampaign users, but the methodologies and practical insights are valuable for anyone who wants to use marketing automation regardless of the platform. Thanks, Barry. Well, thanks so much, Mike, for taking the time to leave a review. And if you'd like me to read out your review on a future show, then just head over to iTunes, leave a review, and I'll be sure to put you in one of our upcoming social proof segments. Now, just before we get into the main interview with Jake, I want to tell you to stick around until the end of the episode, and I will tell you how to get up to a 30% discount if you want to use Fused app to execute some of the advanced strategies we're going to talk about here today. So stick around to the end of the show and find out how you can get an exclusive discount on Fused. But for now, let's get into this week's episode with Jake Hauer. All right, I'd like to welcome back to the show Jake Hauer from Fused App. Jake, how you doing?
Very well, thanks, Barry. It's good to be back on.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you of, inside Automation Nation and inside Active Marketer Academy. People are always kind of talking about one or two subjects or both subjects when it comes to integration with ActiveCampaign. And I know you guys are right on top of both. So I'd like to talk to you, one, about some mechanics, and two, about some strategies around video and Facebook custom audiences. Does that sound cool?
Absolutely. Yep, it certainly does.
First of all, let's start with video, which is probably the simpler thing to talk about. So I get the question a lot about, how can I tell if someone's watched a video or how much of a video they've watched, or if they've watched it at all, if they've been through all the way through it, halfway through it. And that traditionally takes some sort of other kind of plugin, some sort of other kind of thing. But tell us a little bit about Fused App and how you make that happen with Fused App.
Yeah, absolutely. So that our integration with Wistia has been around for 3 to 4 years now. I think where it was 2017, yeah, nearly 4 years. And it basically connects with the Wistia API, and it just looks at the percentage of a viewer's, video view, and then allows you to take a certain action inside of ActiveCampaign. This is an interesting one because this was the first integration I built into the platform. And it's always been, the feature that has produced the most awe. Like it's there's a lot of interest around it. The reality is, though, that it's not very well implemented by most people. So we have on the Fuse platform probably a dozen or 24 people who actually are utilizing Wistia really well, really effectively. And that's a really interesting thing that, you know, I've sort of stumbled across after a year or two. But that's starting to change now, which, it's very interesting.
And how are they using it? Like, so what's the common mistake, and what's the alternative? What's the right way to do it?
I think it's always been a case of, okay, if I'm going to use it, how would I use it? And how would I do it in a way it's not going to cause me a great deal of pain? And when I say pain, I mean complexity really is probably the big thing to try and avoid. Now, there was a recent launch that happened, the Todd Herman's 90-day year.
Yeah.
So essentially, they used Fused in a relatively simple way. They basically were just tagging everybody who watched more than 20% of the video, and then they were able to just target those people as engaged users who watch the launch video. So you're able to, I guess, fast track content to those particular people, and also just communicate them in a slightly different way. So that is certainly the best use case. I know personally, I do a little bit of work in the golfing space, and I find the best way to utilize it is just to change your messaging a little bit in your email follow-up and to hold back on the promotion. So, for instance, we have a little funnel in place which pushes people to a free video. Then there's an upsell after they watch the video into a workbook type of thing. And basically, every couple of days when we're sending an email, we're first checking to see whether they've watched the video. And we're doing that with Fused and Wistia. If they haven't watched the video, then the messaging in the emails is about going back and watching and consuming that particular content versus trying to sell them on the next, on the next step.
Yeah. So not trying to take them to step 2 until they've kind of had enough of step 1.
Yeah, exactly. Now, there's a couple of things that I personally have seen, and also I've seen in Fused as users, is that you can get a little bit too aggressive in this. So mistakes are made when people are actually gating content completely. So if they're saying if someone hasn't watched this video more than 20%, they're not getting access to video 2 until they go back to it. And they get quite aggressive with that. And I've seen that not necessarily work very well. And the reason for that is that not every single piece of content you produce is going to appeal to everybody on your list. And so by basically forcing them to watch something they may not necessarily be interested in, and hiding the rest of the content, I guess you're basically removing the potential for that person to engage in future content.
Yeah, for sure. I remember one launch, it was probably earlier in the year, and I was like, oh yeah, I definitely want that product. Yep. And I wanted it like from, you had me at hello, I wanted it straight away.
Yeah. Yep.
But now I got to sit through 4 of your friggin' videos before I can find a buy button. It's like, just let me buy. Just let me buy.
So a really effective way to do that from a strategic standpoint, let's look at a typical launch video, like, the Jeff Walker style product launch formula of 3 videos plus a sales video. I guess the most effective way I've seen that use is to use Fused as almost like a funnel, like pressing fast forward on a funnel. So if someone watches X amount of video 1, then fast track video 2 to that person. But if they don't watch video 1, then, have maybe the videos are being released every 3rd day. So you'd still release video 2 after 3 days. But if someone has watched video 1 that first day, then you might decide to give them video 2 that same day or the next day. So you're either just expanding or I guess shrinking the length of time that someone's in a funnel based on how engaged they are.
Right. Yeah. Cool. And what would you do for the, just Would you wait the 3 days for someone who hasn't necessarily watched all of video one, or you try and drive them back to video one a little bit?
Still, I still would suggest some follow up and try and encourage them to watch the video. So yeah, that's definitely the case. The other thing that I've found, and this doesn't necessarily just apply to Wistia and videos, but also just in marketing automation in general, is that people it's very easy to get carried away with the data you're given. So you know so much about a particular user that it's easy to get carried away and actually start showing start explaining to the lead that you know what they're doing. And I think tends to get a little bit creepy. So I've always erred on the side of coincidence, if that makes sense. Yeah. So in all of my copy, I never mention the fact that I know someone hasn't watched a video. It might be worded along the lines of, hey, if you haven't seen this video, go back and watch it now. If you have seen it, let me know what you thought, type of thing. So even though I know that they haven't watched it, I'm still not telling them that I know that they haven't watched it. It just seems less creepy.
Yeah, and people can get super aggressive too. It's like, you haven't watched this, you haven't watched this, you haven't. Like sometimes people are just not into your shit.
Yes,
they just don't want it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's another client who's a raging fan of the products of Fused. He's basically saying that for every dollar invested in Facebook marketing, they're earning $4 back. And as a direct result of what Fused is doing for them. And they actually do push to that level of really aggressive. So they completely gate their entire funnel. And they start sending emails saying you're going to be deleted if you haven't watched this video in the next 24 hours type of thing. So they actually do get very aggressive with it, with good results. But, as a marketer personally, I like to, I guess, nurture a contact a little bit more than just giving them an ultimatum.
Yeah, for sure. But I guess that serves a purpose. It weeds out the people who are on the fence, which I guess serves a purpose too. But
absolutely,
it's like those Nigerian scam letters. People go, who would ever read this whole thing?
It's completely.
Well, that's it. It's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's designed to get the stupidest people to the end of the letter and to get them to click.
Yep.
Yeah, so I guess it all depends on what you're after. Speaking of Facebook,
yes.
So the other cool thing, the other thing that people always want all the time is to put people into custom audiences, and not only that, but to make sure they're in the right custom audience for what you're trying to do. There's nothing quite as annoying and reputation destroying is you keep seeing ads for something you've already purchased, right? So you purchase product X and you keep getting hammered with Facebook ads for how great product X is, right? So tell us a little bit about the custom audience stuff that's in Facebook and how some people might be using that. Yeah,
absolutely. So there is a very subtle difference between the custom audience or a customer list customer audience, which is what Fuse does, and the normal audiences that you can create on Facebook, the website custom audiences. And the reality is that for the vast majority of action that somebody takes, you can cover that with a website custom audience. So a website custom audience is simply someone who has visited a certain page on your site. So you can, you don't need Fuse for that. You can just do that natively with Facebook's ad platform. But where Fuse comes into its own, and this is why I really designed it, was that it works really well for funnel retargeting. Now, let me put that into perspective. Let's say you've got someone going through a product launch formula, for example, and they've watched video one, and then you want to start talking about getting them to watch video two. Now, if they haven't, but basically what you can do with the Facebook retargeting, with the CRM retargeting, is that and the action happens. So in ActiveCampaign, an email is sent, you put them onto a particular list or tag at that same time that that email is sent, and then you can start targeting those people with the similar message before they've even actually visited a page on your site.
Right. So the act of getting a tag, for example, in an ActiveCampaign will fire what retargeting they get, even though they right.
Yeah. So it plugs a small, and it is a small gap, but it plugs a small gap between when someone being active and doing a certain thing on your site and not. There is it's something that if you're not doing a lot of Facebook advertising already, then it's not something you'd be utilizing. But if you're doing a lot of Facebook advertising, and you just need to plug the gap somehow, then that's how you would use diffused retargeting. It's certainly there's a few things that you're going to have on there. Regardless, it's going to be your database, your CRM database. So you're going to upload a list like that and keep that in sync. So that's really good for creating lookalike audiences. So if you're adding people to your database all the time, then Fuse is automatically keeping that in sync, which is going to update the lookalike audiences, and it's going to, over time, ensure that those audiences are going to get more refined and get more and more like your own customer base.
Right. So you're not having to go to ActiveCampaign like every month or every week and export a CSV and then load it up to Facebook to create a custom audience of either people who are on your list or people who may have bought a particular product or whatever.
Exactly. So
you can do it by tag as well. So if someone purchases product A, then would that be able to create a lookalike audience for product A purchasers?
Exactly.
All right. Very cool.
Yep. So it's tag based, how it works. So when someone gets fired, and it's essentially technically what we're doing is we're creating some webhooks, and so whenever a contact is updated into a certain tag or out of a certain tag, then we're updating that particular data in Facebook.
Very cool. So you're instantly, every time someone buys, you're instantly expanding that potential lookalike audience on Facebook.
Yep.
Wow,
yep.
Awesome.
So one way it can be, again, this is kind of hard because it gets relatively technical, but so for instance, with the website custom audience, you can target someone who has visited a web page in a certain time period. Like if target someone who's visited X page within 3 days, X page within 4 days. So where the CRM retargeting gets very important is if you're running an evergreen sort of like deadline type of funnel or closing funnel, right? This is where it can be really effective because particularly if we're looking at deadline funnel, the product itself, where you can start a countdown or trigger a countdown from within ActiveCampaign. What you can do is you can essentially mimic that exact same deadline with the creation of Facebook custom audiences. So that essentially what it means is that you can stop marketing to people once they fall outside of the parameters of the actual deadline, if that makes sense.
So what would be an example of that, right? So let's say there's a 10-day countdown sequence or whatever. So you'd be able to potentially show them Facebook ads that say like 2 days, 2 days to go, 1 day to go.
You could do that, or you could just have one particular ad for that entire period running, saying, "Hey, go ahead and purchase this product." Now, where this works much better than using a website custom audience is that, say on day 9, say you create an audience on Facebook. So show ads to purchase this product for someone who's visited in the last 7 days. If they visit on day 9, for instance, then it's going to continue to show that ad to that person after their cart is closed.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with the CRM retargeting, you can just show ads to that person while they're in that specific funnel. So again, it's a very specific use case, but I have found it really beneficial from that perspective. Being able to do that, it's just enhanced slightly, ever so slightly, but it's an important enhancement to what you can just do natively with Facebook.
Very cool. And any other? So can you do stuff like, so let's say they purchase product A, right? So, wait 2 weeks and then start showing them ads for whatever the upsell is for the next thing in the chain. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yep. And it just gives you a little bit more, I guess, just a little bit more granular control and can simplify it versus, having to think about how that is going to play out on Facebook itself if you're going to show ads.
Awesome.
The way I've started thinking about it, it's essentially like sending an email, except it's just using another medium.
Yeah, which I think is the trend, really, isn't it? Like, how do we send emails without sending emails? Or how do we get people's attention? How do we get messages to people in an alternate route other than email?
Absolutely, and it takes so many touches for people to see something. I'm constantly amazed at how many people buy a product. Like, for instance, last month we ran a promotion for a week, pretty much an email a day to buy a particular book, just a book in the golfing niche again. And so in my opinion, we hammered the list, and we were very direct about the promotion. We sent out an email again yesterday to the exact same list, and we got a bunch more sales. So even though we really hammered it last time, just people either didn't pay attention or didn't see it. That always consistently surprises me, just how many times you have to just explain the same message before somebody's ready to take action.
Yeah, I think too, especially true on social media, right? Because where it's like, standing by the side of the stream when a stick floats by, if you're not standing there, you never see the stick go down the river. So it's not a matter of just putting the message out there, but putting it out there while someone's got their eyeballs on it, right?
Absolutely. That's also the same. I know list management and having a clean list, and that's, a lot of people have a re-engagement segment sequence. That's another part where I think people can get a little bit aggressive as well. So, I tend to err on the side of caution. If someone hasn't in the system opened an email or clicked an email, I guess it's probably the constant question: how long should you wait before you start either trying to re-engage them or, asking them to take action? And I tend to err on the side of caution because, it just may be that what you've been sending hasn't been applicable to them, or that they are actually seeing something, whether they're just glancing and then deleting without even opening or clicking. It doesn't mean that they're not getting value.
Yeah, and I think we both know people, like Sean Kay and Ian Brody, who've said, people have been sitting on their list dormant for 2, 3, 4 years, and then all of a sudden they just buy.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's I just keep seeing it, and it's, as I said, it's completely surprising. I know that certainly when you're reaching contact limits before you're being upgraded to the next level, or just trying to improve sender deliverability, and that, I think people can err on the side of aggressiveness. But I've seen many cases where going the opposite way actually increases conversion.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Jake. Any other tips or secrets that might be coming out in Fuse soon that we should know about?
No, we've got a couple of little things here and there. Like we've just about to launch a Google Drive to Wistia integration. So previously we've had Dropbox. So essentially, what this allows you to do is plonk a file in Google Drive and then walk away, and then it will just automatically upload to Wistia to a project in Wistia, and that, if you're using a lot of video, that's just a handy little feature to have, because you don't have to have a window open waiting for a big video file to upload in your browser.
Yeah, for sure, and especially when you've got shit bandwidth like we have here on the Sunshine.
Oh, I've got about 2 megabits download where I'm down out of a major town, really, but it's completely horrible internet. But so for me, I'm trying to upload 16 gigabytes of video at the moment, and it's taken 2 weeks. It's ridiculous.
Nice. Yeah, my connection, my iPad is better than the wireless in the house. It's pretty sad.
On the mobile network.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The worse than the house connection.
I'm the same here, except I have no mobile reception.
Need a satellite or something.
Yeah, we're in a dead spot.
All right, brother. I want to thank you for taking the time to come on and share some of those tips and strategies with us. And as always, if people want to find out more, they can just head over to fuseapp.com.
Fantastic, Barry. Thank you, and thank you for tuning in.
Look forward to seeing you online, Jake. I'd like to thank Jake for coming on the show, always so generous with his time and his knowledge, and I would urge you to head over to fusedapp.com and check out all the groovy things that you can do with Fused. Now, if you're like Michael, whose review I read out at the beginning of the show, and you are getting a lot out of this podcast and you've been a listener for a while, I want to ask you a favor. I want you to pay it forward. So if you've been getting value out of these podcasts, share that with somebody else. Share that with a friend or a colleague who may be struggling with their marketing or struggling with their business that can really use the tactics, tips, and techniques that we talk about here in the Active Marketer podcast. And it'll also help us reach a wider audience. So I'd really appreciate it if this week you could share this episode with someone you know. Now, at the beginning of the episode, I told you how you can get a discount on Fused. Now, Jake has been very generous in offering a 30% discount on Fused app subscriptions to Active Marketer Academy members. So if you're currently an Academy member, you can just head over to the resources section of the site and you will see how to access that special discount. If you're not an Academy member, what are you thinking? Get over to ActiveMarketerAcademy.com. There are literally hundreds of dollars worth of discounts inside of the community for Academy members on all the tools you may be using or you may want to use now. It's just one of the many perks of Active Marketer Academy membership. So what is the Active Marketer Academy? It's all about helping you get better results with your sales funnels and marketing automation. So if 2017 is the year, you're going to get your shit together and you're going to get some funnels in place and you're going to scale up your business. Why not do it with the help of people who have done it before and people who, your colleagues who are doing it now? So that's who you'll find inside the Active Marketer Academy. What you'll find in there is training on a whole bunch of different things like how to implement an automatic selling machine, how to do survey funnels, how to use ActiveCampaign pipelines. There's shared automations inside that you can just suck straight into your account. There are quick wins. So if you have a quick little problem, you can go to the quick wins library and figure out how to solve it. And as I said in the resources section, there are special Academy member discounts on a lot of the tools that you might want to use in your marketing. But the most important thing is access to myself and access to other business owners who are on the exact same path as you inside the community section of the Active Marketer Academy. So if this is the year you're going to put sales funnels and marketing automation to use in your business, head over to ActiveMarketerAcademy.com and join up. If you have any questions, by all means, hit me up on email at Barry, B-A-R-R-Y, at theactivemarketer.com, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. So until next week, everybody, get out there and design, automate, and scale your business to the next level with sales funnels and marketing automation. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Active Marketer Podcast. You can find the show notes and all the latest marketing automation news over at theactivemarketer.com.